call the Personnel Committee meeting to order. Okay. Under discussion, we'd like to talk about the elected personnel policy. Upon talking with my committee and other legislatures, I can open it up to my committee, who has been wonderful with this discussion in different aspects. One of the components is none of the salaries would change until the elected terms begin, but there are other factors that would come into play. So I can open it up to my committeeman and let him speak.
Yeah, I think, we've had this, thank you, Chair. You and I have had this discussion. I've had a couple discussions back and forth with the executive about this elected official policy of, we moved away from grouping elected officials in with non-bargaining appointed personnel because they are two different, really two different types of positions and should be dealt with in different policies. One thing that I thought that in speaking with Chair Wheeler this evening, that in adopting a new policy, we should look at potentially adopting, since it is a policy and it can be amended at any time, having an end date on that policy seems a little not needed to me. That we could, potentially set an elected official policy and that it would remain in effect until amended. And then as far as breaking it down, that it would be broken down in the same way that the non-bargaining policy be. Obviously, some of the provisions would be a little different in that any salary set by that policy would take effect at the beginning of the next term for any of the elected officials. And I think that's a fair thing to do, in my opinion. State law requires that no elected official's salary be decreased during a term of office. However, our charter in one position, that of the county executive, states that the salary cannot be increased nor decreased during a term of office. And I think that's a good way to operate. As elected officials, we know what we're getting into. We run for the salary as it is at the beginning of the term, and we know that. So I think that, that's something that I would like to see in the policy. And as far as setting those salaries, I think it's going to be an interesting collaboration, looking at data from other counties, and depending on how we set up that salary structure. But I think that's something that, we should have a little weigh-in from a lot of different people to come at something that is fair for the position, and not necessarily whoever holds that position. And it's kind of a tricky thing because, as we deal with our budget process, every single personnel line in our budget is filled by a person. But I think the theory is that we should be paying for the duties of the office, whether it be elected or appointed, and it just really clarifying what the duties of that task are and what the monetary salary is that goes along with it. So I think, hopefully over the next month, we can get a policy put together and have it on for next month's personnel meeting.
Thank you. We did get the adopted policy back yesterday, and there are components to this that we don't want to take anything away from people that have earned it. There were sick time in the past, which they earned, but going forward, it's something that we have to deal with. So everything will be looked at, and I appreciate input from all of my fellow legislators. And I respect everyone that I worked with immensely. So dealing with all of this, I think that respecting those that we work with and their duties, going forward, I think that we can come up with an agreement and a policy that is fair and just for the taxpayers. for their services. So, thank you. Would anyone else like to? Yes, sir.
I guess I'm just wondering on the timeframe. In other words, the county clerk and the sheriff were elected last year, yet, and I understand with the sheriff that we can initiate a raise for him at any time. We just need to file with the state. But the county clerk is now, are you saying that she's going to have to wait till the following election?
Well, if you wanted to adjust we could adjust anyone, so if you wanted to adjust the sheriffs, wouldn't you adjust the county clerk? I mean, you could adjust anyone's at any time.
You can increase.
Yes.
Except
Increase,
for the
yes.
one position at the county that you can't is the county executive, and that's
Correct.
imposed by our charter. But as of right now, you can increase anybody else's salary at any given time. You cannot decrease
Correct.
them during a term of office.
So then the county treasurer, he does not take office on January 1st, so we need to have something next month?
Yes.
Or increase anytime? So if you're saying-
Well, yeah, theoretically, it can be increased at any given time. If you were going to cut that salary, now we raised it in the budget, the adopted budget. That doesn't mean anything until this body actually adopts the salary. But yeah, it can be any elected salary with the exception of the county executive can be increased pursuant to state law, cannot be decreased. So that could be, the thought process I had is, if we're, it's the same way as, we're looking at different provisions in the charter that are kind of, they treat positions of the same level differently, and I think, that our charter stipulates that one elected official cannot see an increase while term of office. I think that's a fair provision, and I think that's, frankly, moving forward, I think that's how we should treat all elected officials at the county, and because they are serving as an elected official is different than taking a job somewhere. And there are different expectations and different requirements and different duties, but absolutely, if that was the case, that the majority of the legislature supported, there's nothing preventing that.
Terry.
I guess I'm trying to understand this. We would be giving a raise at the end of the term or before the
So
term?
let's, if I may, Chair,
Yes.
let's take us, for example. All of our terms end December 31st, 2016. If we were, very hypothetically, to change that, let's say to $10,001, that salary would not change until January 1st, 2017. Whoever the 9 legislators that were here had sworn in on that day, they would be the people that would get that. So it wouldn't take effect till the beginning of the next term of office.
But hypothetically, the previous legislators would lose out on, because you're
So in effect, you wouldn't be voting to
You're
raise your
actually
own salary.
but you're retroacting the raise, aren't you?
No,
No.
no. So it would be setting it, so for legislature, it would be setting, if we adopted a policy next month, it would be setting a salary beginning January 1st, 2017. For the executive, it would be setting a salary beginning January 1st, 2018. For, the others.
Treasurer, all of the electeds.
So, in giving them one raise, are you figuring out the raise per year of that term?
So those numbers have been calculated, but one of the things that I've supported and I will continue to support is I think we should make these decisions on salaries based upon the position and what they do. And the reason for that is right now there's a base salary, and those base salaries for everybody except for the part-time electeds and the executive historically have gotten increments, longevity, and those salaries have increased given time of office. However, one of the scenarios that is presented that I think is troubling to me is, let's say we have an elected county official that has been here 3 terms. Their salary is much above the base salary. And let's say I want to run against that elected official. I could run on the line that you're going to save $20,000 if you elect me. And that kind of, I think that takes away from the position that it is, and it's a job, and you know, if you're elected to do that job, those duties are no different. And if it's the position, it's kind of taking the longevity out of the position and paying the position what it's worth. What we've been discussing about doing with non-bargaining and.
So you're saying 6 years or 12 years from now, the salary could be the same as 12 years ago?
Yes. Yeah.
And-
Unless
Unless the
you-
legislature changes.
And you think that's fair?
well, I think for elected officials, you know, 12 years from now, you will, you can't be here in 12 years, we have term limits, but
Right.
let's say you could, you would have had to run for re-election 4 times. And every single time you ran, you knew what you were getting into. And, you know, this body theoretically should adopt and change those salaries as times change, just like any other
But
position.
I think doing that, you're shrinking the pool of people that would want to run because the salaries are lower.
Well, that's why the salaries hopefully will be better. That's why if the salaries are to the point, one person's salary wouldn't be so much greater than the other one.
So are you going to take out the longevity and the increments or the buckets, whatever they call it? Yeah. Okay.
But the person who's, and then I'll call on you, Jesse, but the person who's in there now would not lose that until the next election. Legislator Jesse.
I absolutely agree that no elected official should be getting a raise during their term of office. On all these things that make sense. The only thing is that there really is no mechanism to actually address what happens over time as subordinates get increases. So if we could link at least somehow the process so that the legislature was forced to review, for instance, prior to new terms, what those salaries or wages would be, that would make a lot of sense, because I've seen scenarios where subordinates start to approach or earn more than their supervisor, and especially where there's overtime involved and things like that. And so you have to make some sense of that. And there's a real tendency not to give raises to elected officials. That's just the way that goes. And I think in every legislature, in every elected body like that. So if there were just some mechanism whereby at least we had to review that to make that determination. Like I said, most certainly I would never support a raise for somebody during their elected term of office. But I would also support some mechanism to make sure that we took a serious look at what the salary should be for the future terms.
It's one of the reasons why this policy is the last one coming before us. It's why we separated it out, is because the elected do need to be held to a higher accountability. And the longevity and seniority has been a sticking point for many people because they've earned it in many ways. But it's a sticking point because you want people to be on equal grounds. But there is a reward system there, so it's a conflict.
I've seen situations where, for example, where mayor was 200 employees and is at 100th in salary.
Right.
And that didn't start out that way, but it just evolved over time because of failure of the legislature to act. So that's what I'm talking about. Some mechanism so that we, whether we vote it up or down, and increase it up or down, at least it gets addressed prior to the new term of office.
Yeah.
I think having something in there that, at least encourages, I don't know, since it's a policy, how much you can require, but that, salaries be reevaluated the year of election, and that those be amended into the policy at that point, I think would be, definitely appropriate and fair.
It's true. Right now, we only can look at certain ones to not go up, while others can be evaluated. So I think at least having the discussion and having many different aspects being openly discussed in a rational way, I think is at least valid, and I like it.
Well, I have to take part in the discussion anyway.
Excellent. Anything else under discussion? I look forward to it next month. Okay, so for the resolutions, and we talked so long that my computer shut down. Give me one quick moment. And Resolution 1, resolution authorizing the county executive to sign renewal agreement, labor relations services, Wellman's Gold Minot LLP. This is for negotiations contracts agreement. This is a 2-year contract. I'll sponsor. I need a second. Ryan, any questions?
Yeah, I do, Chair. We're authorizing the contract when we're not, this current legislative body is not going to be here. And
We'll be here for 1 year, not 2, not the other one.
right. I mean, I would, not that I have anything to say about it until next month, but, I would be in favor of this year, but I wouldn't want to impose something on the next board.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's kind of like the, I can just think of the auction, how we did the 1 year with the 2-year option. This is a normal 2-year contract that they do. This is a 3-year.
It's for 2000, if I may, for 2016, 17, and 18, with a very minor increase.
I see the increase.
Minor increase given the services that we provide for the county. Oh, maybe $2,000 over the course of 3 years of an increase in the services that they provide.
Do they always do just 3 years? Have they ever done anything less?
The research that I've done in the previous years has been 3 years.
Okay. Right. Move it to full board and we can.
Well, I just have a
Yes, sir.
discussion too. Just a couple of things. I just cannot open the actual contract here. I haven't had a chance to see that. I see the rates, and there are modest increases on an annual basis there. That doesn't bother me. But I don't really have a good sense of how many bargaining units that contracts are up in a given year, and what the total cost of the contract would be. If we're just looking at hourly rates, that doesn't really tell us a lot.
All right. You're saying what the total contract would be per year?
Well, I don't know how I know what their hourly rates are, but I don't know typically how many hours are going to be involved and how many contracts are going to be negotiated. Some of those other things. It may say that in the attached contract. I just cannot open it.
Okay. Nicole?
It's a monthly rate for Roma Mountain Gold Minot to provide those contract negotiations. The hourly rate is for anything above and beyond what's included in their contract. So that would be for, say, I asked them to go to an unemployment hearing for us, which is outside. They would review all the documentation previous to within our contract with that monthly rate. But if they were to actually go to court for, say, unemployment, which again is outside of what their contract says, then they would be billing us on a monthly rate, on an hourly rate. But the contract negotiations are all included within the monthly rate that we currently have.
if I could just add to that, the contract negotiations, the labor management, when we're having issues with, disciplinary issues, and they've been working quite a bit. And then also, in our labor management meetings that we've been having on a regular basis, has created a situation where we're not getting to that next step where we need them on an hourly basis. So that cost has been very minimal, thankfully. I can say I'm nothing short of absolutely pleased with the work that they've done for us.
I would agree, because I've had similar experience.
Yeah.
They were labor negotiators for the city of Amsterdam when I was mayor. I don't have any problems there. I just want to understand what it is that we're paying, that's all.
Sure.
And if you would like, I can provide you with, if Linda is up there, I can provide you.
Okay, I'm all set. Thank you.
I've had the pleasure of working with them, and they are phenomenal, and they have, as Matt expanded, they have saved us. Their communications are phenomenal, and they can get any breakdowns that we
Well, that's very
need.
true. I know.
Wonderful. Okay. And I heard what you said as well, Roy, so thank
That was
you.
just my opinion, thanks.
Yep, thank you, I appreciate that. Okay.
Do I will have to look at why that attachment is not working?
It's always a pain to.
I've never been able to sign in.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we move that to the full board?
Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, next resolution, resolution authorizing the county executive to sign agreement for Kronos time clock maintenance, MMH personnel. I need a sponsor in a second. I'll sponsor. I need a second. Martin. Any questions?
It's important to keep people working.
Very important, excellent. Wishes of the committee?
Full board.
Full board, excellent. Next resolution, resolution amending 2015 operating budget unemployment. I'll sponsor, I need a second. Ryan, excellent. I just have a question. We're moving 35,000 from retirement to unemployment. Is there, how much is in retirement? Is that gonna be?
In speaking with the treasurer, there did not seem to, that's the line that he suggested to come out of, there seems to be that there'll be an overage in the retirement line.
Because our rate decreased, didn't it?
Sorry.
The rate decreased with,
As long as
the
Sean
state's
says.
becoming more
The retirement line is well up.
Okay, just when I saw retirement, okay, thank you very much. All right, wishes of the committee? Thank you. Next resolution, resolution authorizing the county executive to sign renewal agreement, Eastern Medical Support. I'll sponsor, I need a second. Joseph? Isabel? Any questions? Wishes of the committee? Full board, move it. Next resolution, resolution authorizing the county executive to sign renewal agreement with HM Life Insurance Company of New York. I'll sponsor, I need a second. Roy, if I can, under discussion, this is the stop loss coverage. I'd actually like to table this, if I could, to get some more information. I don't believe we've used this, and if it's not too time sensitive, last year when this came up as well. I don't believe we've used this for at least 4 years. This is at a cap of 200,000. It's open for discussion, as always. Yes, Matt?
I would say, I believe we have, I believe there's been a number of times, I would say 4 or 5. But even if we didn't, should a significant illness happen and we go way over, we're going to be left to pay that full cost.
I'll move it to full board, and if you can just look into it, if we've used
Yeah,
it
it was-
one time.
Yeah, and it was at the, the recommendation of a broker that we have this, so.
I remember
we'll
last
get the
year.
backup, yeah.
I remember last year going into this in depth, but if you could just
Yeah.
get some more information from me, we'll move it to full board now. Okay? Okay. Aye. And next resolution, resolution adopting Introductory Local Law 2015, Local Law 5 of 2015, a local law establishing salary schedule for various county officials, county legislature. I'll sponsor. I need a second. Ryan? Any questions? No? Okay.
Did Brian sponsor or second?
He did.
I didn't hear it.
Sounds like she's doing what I did.
Okay, wishes of the committee?
Move it to full board.
Move it to full board. And under other, there was one thing that came up, which under personnel, if we could have the personnel director go out, the position of auditor falls under the legislature. So if we want to have the office advertise for the position,
I would very much support that. Let's say we've got a month, well, 3 weeks now before the next personnel committee meeting. I don't know that that's enough time, but I think post it would be very good. And then I think, frankly, my opinion is that we should potentially conduct interviews right here and approve him, whether it be committee of the whole meeting in January or next month here. It's ultimately the person will be appointed by 5 people on this legislature. I think we should hold the interviews right here.
I agree.
But yeah, I would definitely support that.
Are we going to meet to discuss the qualifications?
yes, sir.
If you could send out the current job description requirements that
Yeah.
were for the previous, when we had it before.
Yep.
I think that's a good place to.
Yeah.
To start.
and-
Very good. Thank you. There are some job qualifications right now and specs, so thank you very much.
Civil service position. So the civil service job qualifications. It's not a non-bargaining, well, it's a non-bargaining, but it's a non-competitive civil service title.
I'm just thinking back to the last time, if there were some changes made with respect to whether, well, on any of the qualifications.
The current posting has qualifications. I don't qualify.
Pardon me?
I don't qualify. They have lots of qualifications.
Anything else under other? No? All motion dismiss. I need a second. Thank you, Ryan.